I think that's what they're doing at all.
Just yesterday, the ex-premier tweeted that she's...
Do you have a follow-up question for that?
Yeah, so I guess I'm curious.
Did you hear his response there? Now, you probably don't know who this individual is because she works for the CBC and they have such a poor viewership these days, but that was Janet French, who the NDP MLA literally asked to ask him another question to avoid answering mine.
Do you have a follow-up question for that?
Yeah, so
Keean, Bexte for Rebel News. At the Alberta legislature, you might recall the long fight that we fought to get into this building, and finally it is paying off. I'm attending my very first scrum with NDP MLAs and the United Conservative Party ministers who are about to speak on a variety of subjects. This is my first day in the NDP's safe space, as it were. You might remember the legislative press gallery tried their absolute hardest to keep us out of this building. Why, you ask? Well, because they're loyal to the NDP and they didn't want us asking any questions that could offend them and hurt their weak and delicate sensibilities. Unfortunately for them, that's not how democracy works, and we got in. You can see that full story at letusreport.ca. Now, today there's going to be a range of MLAs. I expect Rachel Notley to be joining this press conference, and I'm not sure exactly which UCP ministers are going to be here, but we'll roll with the punches and go as it happens. I'm going to join this scrum right here beside me and see who shows up and what questions we're able to ask. Now, the first thing that happened here today was Rachel Notley fled the press conference immediately upon seeing that I was there and I was going to be asking real questions. That's her in her little pink suit running away from her own press conference. She left her underperforming lackeys to deal with me. He was kind of sad to actually watch. He was trembling like this was his first press conference, and I asked him very plain as day a question that many Albertans, mostly small business owners, want to hear an answer to, which is, why is the NDP supporting a campaign to target and persecute business owners who didn't support the NDP in the last election? Listen to my question.
That's what they're doing at all.
Just yesterday, the ex-premier tweeted that she's...
Do you have a follow-up question for that?
Yeah, so I guess I'm curious.
Did you hear his response there? Now, you probably don't know who this individual is because she works for the CBC and they have such a poor viewership these days, but that was Janet French, who the NDP MLA literally asked to ask him another question to avoid answering mine.
Do you have a follow-up question for that?
Yeah, so
Never mind, there was more MLAs on the docket and I asked them pretty much the same question. Just yesterday, the ex-premier tweeted her support for small businesses. That tweet runs directly in opposition.
Concerns about what they see in the curriculum.
Just yesterday, the ex-premier tweeted her support.
The curriculum if it was that important to you.
Do you find the ex-premier's tweet yesterday a little bit hypocritical, given the ongoing campaign supported by the NDP to boycott businesses that are opposed to your ideology and your party? Do you find the ex-premier's tweet a little bit hypocritical, the one that she says she supports small businesses, given the ongoing campaign supported by the NDP to boycott businesses opposed to your party? Does your party support further lockdowns? Why is the NDP supporting a program to boycott businesses that are opposed to your party? Could you tell me why your party is supporting an ongoing boycott of businesses that didn't support your party in the last election? What I learned today is that the NDP, well, they don't care that we've been allowed into the legislature, that the Sergeant at Arms and the Speaker has given us access to practice journalism here. They're going to work in consort with the mainstream media to not just speak over my questions, but flat out ignore them when asked. It's a huge problem, obviously, but I don't mind. I'll keep asking my questions. Now, the UCP ministers of the Crown who showed up, well, I asked them a little bit different questions. Here's how that went down. What goals do you have for a new curriculum, and what would you consider a success? And on top of that, why does it need to be redone in the first place?
Well, we were elected on a platform that very much was committed to ensuring that our students have the foundational knowledge and skills to make them successful in their lives. And so that is our commitment. We're committed to that, and we're going to bring that forward.
There's been a lot of talk recently for tax relief for small businesses and other corporate entities to help them manage through the pandemic. Families are facing similar problems. Are there any plans in the works to reduce the tax burden on families?
Right now, our real focus is on economic recovery. And that's why we rolled out our economic recovery plan early. We were the first province to do so. The best thing that we can provide Albertans effectively is the opportunity for a job in the upcoming months. And so we're focused on economic recovery and economic growth. We've rolled out a number of measures to set the stage for the most competitive business environment across the country to be right here in Alberta. We recognize that investment attraction will be critical to job creation.
One more. Mr. Tees, what do you think of the recommendations from these curriculum advisors? Do you think that sets Alberta up as an economic powerhouse? Or suggestions?
I'll leave specific questions relative to the curriculum to the education minister.
Now, you probably remember just as well as I do, it took a long time to get into this building, and I hope that it's paying off for you already. I think that we're asking questions that the mainstream media just doesn't want to be asked because they don't want you to hear the answer to them. They will do whatever they can to protect the NDP, and that's fine. I'll keep doing my job. If you want to see the full story behind our quest to uncover the other side of the story from within these walls here, you can go to letusreport.ca. And actually, if you could help me out, if you go there and pitch in a few bucks, it would go a long ways to keeping us here. There's a large legal bill that was left over from us trying to get in here after the Legislative Press Gallery did their absolute best to keep us out. Of course, they lost, but we were left with a bill. If you can help us with that, it would go a long ways. For Rebel News inside of the Alberta Legislature, I'm Keean Bexte. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Like I said, if you can go to letusreport.ca and pitch in a few bucks to keep us here reporting and also help cover the very large legal bill that was left over from our quest to get into these walls, it would go a long ways. That's letusreport.ca.